I'd like to acknowledge and welcome all the First Nations people joining us here today. So happy Biodiversity Month, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lucy, and over here we have Alex. We work for state government with the Illawarra Ecosystems and Threatened Species team and the Saving Our Species program.
So that's a bit about us. Land councils are formed under the Land Rights Act, and we are responsible for representing the Aboriginal community and membership. So the Illawarra is kind of an interesting region for land councils because we go from the coast over the escarpment all the way into the highlands, and that includes the Illawarra Nation, which I'd like to acknowledge now, its elders past, present and emerging, and also into the Kembla lands, which is also like to acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging, and the country that we stand on today, Illawarra the Wadi Wadi, and then also where we do our other projects in Illawarra, which includes Kembla. But we also have that linkage to culture and community to help inform sites. So we just recently did one for Kumadichi Lagoon, a 10-year plan for council. We'll hopefully release a redacted version because we have some specific sites in there that we can't release. But essentially we define the zones for them, exactly what can and can't be done works-wise in those zones, saving the client on having to do applications to Heritage New South Wales just to be able to go and get rid of Lantana or plant some plants. So it means that you get a full picture on what needs to be done.
Oh, actually, then I'd like to acknowledge the Illawarra people on whose land the university is and where I've done my research in the Wollongong suburbs. So I'm going to talk about moss. So this is a little tiny scrap of moss that's under a fence on the TAFE ground. If you walk from the university through the TAFE ground to the station, this is a little bit of moss that's under those fences. It's about that small. And I was lucky enough to use this amazing microscope in the Fly Lab actually, and you can revealing all this detail. So there's a couple of different species there. You can see the leaf with a red vein in the middle. That's called a costa. So that tells me it's probably something called Germabrine papatheca, and that is something that's really common all throughout the urban environment. So what I like about moss is that it's big enough that you can actually see it with the naked eye, but it's small enough that you've got to zoom in, you've got to notice it, and I think that's a really nice aspect of it. It has adaptations that allow it to sort of survive with little water and excessive light. It's part of the major plant group, the bryophytes, which also include liverworts and hornworts. You do see liverworts in the urban environment, but I don't see many hornworts. But they're really cool things to sort of think about as well. But here's some pictures of some liverworts. Some of these are, there's one, which one is it? Oh, this one here is just Fern Hill, or Parking Fern Hill, and there's some Riccia liverworts. So that's been a really lovely part of looking at moss. I notice lichen a lot more now as well. So thank you very much.
G'day everyone, my name's Alex. Thanks Mum. Yeah, as Lucy mentioned, I'm actually not a scientist. I have a background in ecology, but I'm a photographer and filmmaker. So this talk is not going to be as technical as some of the other amazing talks today. But I'm going to give you a top-level overview of this incredible species and some of our other spiny crayfish, and hopefully you can take away an appreciation for them because they're pretty unique. Oh yeah, I'm wearing a crayfish shirt as well. So the logical place to start is with the genus spiny crayfish. So Euasticus is a diverse genus of freshwater crayfish across most of eastern Australia. There's over 54 species and counting. So there's new ones being discovered all the time. They're an important food source for a lot of other animals. So some of these big female crayfish, they might produce hundreds and hundreds of eggs each year, which will then turn into tiny little crayfish young. And they're all put into the stream, and of them they'll be lucky if one survives to adulthood. All of the others get nabbed by quolls, by a lot of water birds, racali, by platypus. So without the crayfish, you wouldn't have any of those other animals that we really love to see around. And they'll nick you as well. So those giant claws, they're just like big vices. They are huge and they will absolutely crush. Where is the southern hairy crayfish? So they really love these eastern flowing clear rainforest sort of streams that flow down the Illawarra escarpment, and they're found from around Scarborough in the north down to Kembla Mountain in Berry to the south, but they're also found above Belmore Falls and on the Buttery Plateau. We don't really have an entirely accurate grasp of their distribution, but that's around what we think. So around Wollongong, there are pretty much all of our urban streams as well. All of the tributaries, including the Macquarie Rivulet, Mullet Creek, Duck Creek, American Creek, and so on.
Hey everybody, my name's Jordan. I'm a PhD student from the University of Wollongong. And today I'm excited to share some of the research our lab is doing on southern greater gliders. Those adorable fluff balls you can see up on the screen there. So first, a bit of background. Southern greater gliders are the largest gliding possums out there. They weigh between 900 and 1700 grams, about the same as a bag of sugar. And they can glide distances of up to 100 metres in a single leap. Basically, the superheroes of the possum world. These little guys live way up high in the trees, munching on eucalyptus leaves and chilling out in tree hollows. But they're super sensitive to changes in their habitat. Things like bushfires, logging, and climate change have really taken a toll, leading to some significant population declines. But how do we know if a population is healthy? Now there are many factors, but in short what we're looking at is how well they're doing physically, behaviourally, and socially, and how well they're adapting to their changing environment. To get a handle on this, we're exploring 3 key research areas: parasites, disease, and genetics. By studying these things, we can get a good idea of where each population falls on the health spectrum, whether they're thriving or in need of help. This is crucial for protecting not only glider health, but also the health of other animals and even us humans from any nasty diseases. Finally, we ask how healthy are the glider populations genetically. Genetic health is a super important aspect for a population's survival. We're talking about things like genetic diversity, how much variation there is in the gene pool, and heterozygosity, how mixed up those genes are. The more of both of these things, the better. But we need to make sure both the source and destination populations are healthy, free of parasites and diseases, so that we don't accidentally make things worse. There's still a lot to learn about glider health before we can safely consider using translocation as a conservation tool.
I know that you probably had an acknowledgement of country, but I think it's really fantastic for us to just think about how important this plant community would be for a lot of the Darawal people here in the country we stand on today. And I feel really lucky to be able to work on this project and hopefully with the support of our Indigenous partners as we move forward. So when we think about the Illawarra, I guess one of the things that we're likely to have in our minds are that we live in this amazing green forested landscape that's full of really wet plant communities. And certainly when we think about the rainforest here, that's definitely the case. Lots of water, a diversity of tree species that exist in the landscape, viney elements that exist in the plant community, and lots of water courses that carry things down the landscape. And we would think about the trees being large things like churnwoods, lots of closed canopy where you see light filtering out so you get a quite dark understory. Patches of plant community that are actually quite dry in amongst all of that really wet plant community, that rainforesty plant community. And those are the Illawarra lowlands grassy woodlands. They only exist under 200 metres above sea level and they're right down on the coastal plain. And I'll show you a map of where they occur in our patch. But to give you an idea of the things that we would hope to see in those, there are things like the common species that we really don't think about, because we see a lot of them in the landscape, but certainly in grassy woodlands there are species that we need to keep our eye on because it's likely that as the climate changes, those things are going to become impacted and certainly they may too start to become threatened. But generally when we think of woodlands, they'd be a plant community that has canopies that don't touch, and often they're a bit more sparse than this. Not much complexity in the mid-story, and then lots of stuff down on the ground, and that's usually an array of different grass species. Things like the mandra, which are really important for food and for weaving. Barangoa, which is the forest red gum, which is ceremonial, provides food, and is a really important plant for tree making in this community. Tucker exists in that landscape, and of course, animals that are important in Dreamtime story really use grassy woodlands as well. So we need to think about the importance of this plant community as a whole, not just from Western Isles, but from the things that it actually brings to our Indigenous community as well.
Pretty exciting stuff. But here is a bit of an overview of what is India wildlife art defined by our perimeter fence. But we do a fair bit of stuff outside of that and today give you a bit of a run through about what that is. But we've recently started a not-for-profit organisation that's going to hopefully capture a lot of the conservation work that we do. There's 3 beautiful species of one species of turtle and 2 species of frog. So we do a lot of breed to release work and a lot of in situ and ex situ conservation work. The bell frog is quite a notorious frog found here in Port Kembla, hanging on by a thread, but still found here. Last seen in Kembla Lagoon in 2018, so we're on a bit of a quest to find that frog again. The Bellings River snapping turtle, another great species found nowhere else up the Bellings River, and the southern saddle frog, a really cool frog found in temperate rainforests, supposed to be scattered throughout the Illawarra, and it's sort of looked at in this region, and the plan is to reintroduce the species back to the Illawarra. But only in the last couple of years, drone technology has been skyrocketing. The drone technology has made it very, very easy to find whales. I want to say easy, much easier than sort of historic spotlight. And so, over the last 2 years, this method has come up, and it has made it a lot easier, a lot cheaper to sort of find whales in the bush. I guess this is what we originally wanted to think about. This is the Illawarra Plateau. This is an ecological significant, beautiful chunk of bushland just over there. We're so lucky to have this so close to us, and there is definitely pockets of the Illawarra Plateau that is quite well known, but there's a beautiful chunk just to the west side of Wollongong that is quite sort of unexplored. And so I guess our goal is to sort of explore that, work out what's there, and get some baseline fundamental data so we can track that data over time and work out if these populations are growing, if they're shrinking, if they're shrinking.
In this area, the land care has been around since 1988, and in fact one of the first land care projects, the bicentennial projects in 1988 was the Kembla land care, which Carl was instrumental in starting, and has been working out ever since. So it's a movement with deep roots in the region, and we've got hundreds of volunteers in the area who care for public and private land, all sorts of different maintainers, and we work in different ecological communities. For a long time we've had a particular project, the Woodlands and Rainforest Project, which has been about restoring the Illawarra grassy woodland and the Illawarra subtropical rainforest.
Started working at Wollongong Tea Gardens and there were some beautiful walkway fig trees that were going to be thrown away because they sort of didn't have a home, they'd grown really big. So I took them to a place in Kembla, near where I lived, put them in the ground, and did a vacant land, and then a semi-trailer came along and parked on top of them and basically wiped them all out. So I thought, where else can I put them? And there's a place called the Boneyard, which was in that first slide that Emmy showed. And I started planting in a little gully with these fig trees. And someone, a guy called Bob King, found some labels on the plants that had my name on them. And so I thought, at the same time, he and another guy, Peter Knott, were starting to look at this headland and go, we need to preserve it, because if we don't, it's going to be covered in houses. So they found me, and then we formed the land care group, and the rest is history, I guess.
Really small local distribution, and it's one of the reasons it's good to know a lot about the place you're working, you're volunteering, even if it's your garden, because you might have something really special like it's just sitting there, maybe unnoticed. And this particular plant, the pink hibiscus, is mostly known in this area for the Chirochi Creek area, where it's there along the waterways. It's quite a built-up, urban, developed area, and you can still see the plants there. But the white beech, Lena Lycartii, and I think there are estimates that there are fewer than 100 mature trees of this species left in the region due to having been logged as part of large-scale logging across the region for various purposes. So when you want to include this tree in a restoration project, it can be a real challenge to ensure genetic diversity with so few individuals. So one project Land Care Illawarra has done over a few years is to collect from the non-fruiting trees. We think we found 8 trees between Royal National Park and Berry, and we would collect seed from them.
And with forest clearing and hunting, a bird that was at sort of the southern end of its range became eliminated. And so there's nothing that can carry those fruit, we think, away from the parent trees. So we've become the vector that does that. If you go further north, you'll find plenty of white beech, but the Wampu pigeon is up north. So the hope is that by planting them, this is one hope, by planting them, mixing their genes up, so they can cross-pollinate again, one day the Wampu pigeon may well come back to the Illawarra, and we'll see this magnificent, colourful bird again feeding on the white beech.
iNaturalist is really great. You take photos of tadpoles as well as frogs, and then I can see them, if you put them online in the Illawarra, I can see those and help you identify them. So there's a few kids that have been out using iNaturalist, and I've been getting their records. It's been great. So I really encourage you to try these 2 apps. This is a really amazing pamphlet on the Wollongong City Council website. It's really great. I won't go on about it. It's just really good if you want to find out more about frogs in the Wollongong area. They do say that don't put fish in ponds, and I'd just like to say that you can put fish in ponds. There's a really great fish you can buy in Illawarra that will stop mozzies biting your kids if you want to make a pond. And they've got really distinctive calls, like the screaming tree frog does sound like it's screaming. The little dwarf tree frog is usually on the mandra, like tucked in the grass. So if you just get a head torch and look at night, you can find those. Perrin's tree frog are very common too. They've got the emerald sort of dots on their back. And you often find them like sort of around water and rain and things. These are 2 endangered frogs I work on that are in the Illawarra, like they're up in the water catchment and also over towards Barren Ground and Budaroo and into the Shoalhaven. For my work, I work on endangered frogs because they're threatened by a lot of things. So there's impacts to their habitat. Chytrid fungus is a disease that's affected a lot of frogs in Australia, and it affects their skin, so only the strongest ones survive, so it really reduces their populations. And you might have seen that on social media or on the news in the last couple of years, when it's really wet and then it gets cold, the kitchen fungus is worse. So there was a lot of pictures of frogs dying on the news and dried up. And it was really sad because these are swamps just above Bulli and the Warrnambool River. And they're basically like big sponges and they hold water just like a bathtub. There's like phosphorus sandstone underneath holding all the water in. So they're amazing places. They're really high biodiversity.